Let me start by firstly welcoming you to UNDP. You are not a stranger to us. So maybe just to start the conversation a little bit, to just tell us about yourself.
My name is Aisha Shuaibu. I am an entrepreneur. I own and manage 3 different companies. Waffle Way, a restaurant brand here in Abuja. SWA Global Services, which is a brand development agency, and then SWA Sports, sports marketing agency. I am deeply passionate and interested in advocating for diversity and inclusion. I am a walking and living proof of diversity and inclusion in all of the work that I do. Being from northern Nigeria, there's so many things that are not really expected from the typical northern woman, and I like to display that in my work by defying the norm and stepping up and making a voice, creating a voice for young women, northern women, and saying that we can bring a lot to the table with our ideas, with our capabilities, through collaboration as well. So for me, in everything that I do, representation and inclusion is a huge aspect of that. So I guess in summary, that's who I am and what I do.
That is very interesting. But you're young and you have these 3 businesses. My question for you is what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way? Being from the background you are and being where you are today. I'm sure it hasn't been an easy road. What are some of the challenges and how did you overcome those challenges?
I take pride in when things just don't work out smoothly. Honestly, I don't know why, but I always say that I throw myself into the deep end in everything that I do. I've always been my toughest critic my entire life. When I was 21, I had goals. When I didn't attain them, I was very disappointed in myself. When I got to 25, I was tough on myself again, and I was just finishing my master's program and coming back to Nigeria. So I was really hard on myself in terms of what ideas do you have? What are you trying to do? How are you going to be impactful? And I've always been the same in the sense that I've always wanted to live a purposeful life. So whether, I run a business or whatever it was, I just wanted to make sure that it was bigger than me, right? But then ideas and implementation are 2 different things. And one of the biggest challenges for me, I think, is in the beginning stages of anything that I'm doing, it's almost very hard to even know where and how to begin, especially when you need to bounce off ideas or to collaborate, right? Because you can't really grow anything on your own. And when you decide to do that, you make so many mistakes along the way that you could have saved yourself so much time if there was a bit more guidance. For example, the work that I do now in sports, I always say that when I was in secondary school, I really wanted to play professional sports, right? Of course, Northern Nigerian, Muslim, my mother was not having that. She's like, who do you think you are? That is not who we are and what we do. But we look at the world that we're at now and there's a lot more representation, right? There's a lot more hijabi athletes, there's a lot more conservative women that are occupying those spaces. If I had those role models at the time, then I would have been able to enter those rooms and fill in those rooms, right? So for me personally, I didn't have too many people that were like me when I was growing up. So I felt really odd. I grew up very active. I grew up a tomboy. I grew up basically just not feeling like anything could stop me from anything that I wanted to do. And that was why I just had so many ideas and so many interests from the onset. And thankfully, I also had a family that supported that. So not very restrictive in terms of explore what you're good at. Go and see how you can be meaningful to the world. And my mother was a huge role model as well when I was growing up, and just being somebody that worked closely with women and vulnerable women and children. So watching her work exposed me to a lot of that. But, now walking the walk, it's a bit different. You're having to be in certain spaces where nobody like you occupied before. So you're almost setting the tone. So you're really worried about making mistakes, saying the wrong things, doing the wrong things. But at the same time, I'm not someone that's a very fearless person. I like to throw myself into the deep end and I just learn on the job. But having that representation is so important because for me, I'm telling you, this is the biggest struggle.
Yeah.
You feel alone, you feel crazy. So many people are telling you, why are you interested in this? It is a waste of time. How is it going to make money? Is this a side hustle? Oh, you're sponsored. Someone is taking care of you. Your father, you're getting all of this support. No, a lot of us are just creating something out of nothing.
Exactly.
And we really just want to be able to not feel like we're alone in it. And for me, I think that was really just the biggest struggle among so many other things, of course.
Yeah. And I think not only like you're saying it from a personal point of view, but this is a struggle that us women have to go through each and every day.
Definitely.
And we cannot say it's a northern thing. We cannot say it's a Nigeria thing. But again, this is where we have to set that bar and break that ceiling. What I found very interesting is when you mentioned about your mother being a role model. That's very, very important that she showed you that as a woman, indeed, you can speak out. So now for us, from a development aspect, like how now can we bring in more women?
I think that we need to have more conversations about skills. Skills are important for youth to develop very early on in life based off our interest first, right? Because there's so many young people in school, maybe even out of school that, we know that unemployment rate, is on the rise. And even just globally right now, we're just in a very tough environment. The digital age is taking over, and I think it's changing the way that we work since COVID as well. The times have just really changed and evolved, right? So the time has come now to have more conversations about how we can be a lot more innovative, how we can collectively come together to collaborate to move our country forward, move our lives forward. And I think once we identify what those skills are and how to harness those skills, how we can have, organizations like the UNDP that can come together and create programs around developing those skills or bringing out those skills or creating more ideas amongst young people and women, we're not really going to see much progress. We need to bring women out of their shell.
Absolutely.
Right? We need to bring them out of that shell. We need to say, listen, your voice is important. If you don't come out and talk about the issues that concern you, nobody is going to talk about it on your behalf.
Of course.
Technology, for example. We have so many marginalized communities that have not come across technology whatsoever. And the world is just moving so fast, right? We need to catch them up. But of course, we're still dealing with core issues like power, like security, like healthcare, like water, clean water, all of these things. But still, we have to find a way to catch them up while also providing those basic needs so that they're integrated into the current society and we're able to grow collectively as a society together.
True. No, I totally hear you. And I think it's very important to create these spaces, to have this conversation with the women on the ground. And I think most of the work will start from the ground, getting up to the policymakers to ensure how we can have all this inclusivity. But I think more important, like we just, the work in Garnam that we just did where we had women, like open spaces. Basically, the village was destroyed, but we said, okay, we're trying to rebuild this. So as women come, we want to get your feedback. How is this design? Is it the same as your old house? This is where the school's gonna be. This is where. So just having those conversations, I think it's a starting point, and not just like I said, it starts at the ground, and it goes up. It goes up to the policymakers to see what they're going to do.
Yes,
so I think we are making strides in that area, and just having you as that 1%, being that voice, I think it's really important. How would you advise someone young who wants to be as bold as you, as an adventurous? I know being an entrepreneur is not one easy task.
It's tough. I will say, have a sense of purpose, I think it's very easy to start businesses or to create ideas or to be part of anything because of what you get out of it, but you must make the goal bigger than you. Right now, for me personally, how I'm even able to be here today is that I'm striving to empower the people around me to make them into leaders so that they can keep the engine running while I have the mental capacity to, look at things holistically and basically be a manager, right?
Yeah.
But we need more managers. We need more talented people. We need more women. I love working with women. Most of my staff are female, not because I don't believe that the men can do the same, but there's just something that happens when you bring women together to collaborate and to lead together. There's a sort of soldier-like coordination that takes place that makes everything so much easier. And even with comprehension and communication, it's just I've found that it's better. I have interviewed in my 7 years of business now, I want to say nearly 500 people in the course of my experiences, right? Both men and women. And one thing that has always stood out to me is with the women, when they're capable, you detect it from the first conversation.
I agree with
and when
you.
they're not,
Yes,
they don't.
they
But
don't.
with the men,
Yeah.
they just they find ways of just packaging themselves until they
Yes.
start the work, and then you realize, okay, this is a bit too much
Big
for you.
mistake.
So
Yes.
for me, empowering those around me
Yeah.
and ensuring that you're kind of they're stepping up to be their own managers.
Yes.
It helps to keep the engine running so that you have the time to do too many things, to have to do other things. Personally, I have a very strong desire to just serve as many people as I can within my capacity in the work that I do. For example, with sports, my agency targets sports as a business, right? We're doing sports as a business now. We're trying to develop the Nigerian sports industry while also identifying what these revenue streams are so that we can begin to prioritize sports as a business, even for the country to realize that, listen, there's a lot of economic growth that can come about from sports, right? Yes, there's a huge social impact element to it. However, when you think internally generated revenue from infrastructure, from the different aspects of sports like media and merchandising and broadcasting and legal and medicine and so many things, we need to begin to think along those lines, right? But I'm also not ignorant to the social issues.
Yes.
Because my agency does a lot of community engagement and we go to schools and local camps that have like sports leagues and we give them basketballs. We speak to them on Women's Day. I remember we went to a government girls school in Abuja and we had spoken to them just about empowerment and just being a young woman that is using sports as an outlet and the power of that and how you could have a career in this, but it doesn't only mean that you have to be an athlete. But when we got there, we realized that we gave them basketballs, right? We spoke to them, we empowered them, we took pictures, we made them happy, we did chants and all these affirmations. But these young girls didn't even have shoes to play. They were playing with socks and sandals. They didn't have a playing kit. They didn't have quality coaching. So the issues are not just go there and speak to them and give them rims and balls and jerseys. It's okay. Give them some shoes, give them quality coaching. Let them actually go through a proper structure of what it means to be a team, because sports has so much influence on young people, right? It teaches you discipline and personal development and just so many things. I know because it did that for me when I was in school.
And for me, what's really more interesting is this like social aspect or the social responsibility, which I think every other business should be more considerable about. What is the social aspect that you're doing? You talk about girls, fine, we're bringing you kids, you need your shoes. What other impacts are we going to do for you? So it also brings us back to the development work that we're doing. This also, it's about the lives. What social impact are you doing?
Yes.
And I like the fact you're talking about sport. We have a community Northeast who we have a project, Sport for Peace. So something that we could explore into and just see how it's being done, and mostly it's girls, how they've been playing soccer. They have been displaced in the camps and how they're playing soccer, how it's bringing them together. But that's one thing I like that you're bringing out from your foundation, that yes, this is an entrepreneur thing, but this is what we want to do, and this is the change that we want to bring about. Which I feel it's very amazing, and really like to see that pick up, and I'm sure it will pick up.
I think it's important that young Nigerians, we collectively look at the country as a huge pool of problems and just pick one to solve. And this can even be as a business. You don't have to dedicate your life to, charity work or anything. But I think that even with identifying business opportunities, pick a problem to solve. It's like there's just so many things. And if you just look around and you're tactical enough and you're smart enough, you can identify, some really important problems that you can make a lot of money from.
True.
But also with impact, I mean, the pot is never empty,
Of
right?
course,
the
never.
the sea is never dry. We
It's
literally
always-
have a sea of
there's
problems.
plenty,
So
yeah.
there can't be enough of us that are pursuing a lot of this work.
Yes.
You know, whether it's agencies like the UNDP or myself working as an individual, you know, we can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And the collaboration is extremely important
Absolutely.
in coming together and identifying what our goals are and bringing the like minds together. And of course, innovation, you know, ideas, coming up with new ideas, bringing on board more youth, being a lot more inclusive of youth and their ideas, and using that to bring about real change. And that is how we can move Nigeria forward.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I concur with what you're saying. We all have a responsibility to bring the change that we want to see, each and every individual. And of course, as the youth, which is the biggest populace, each and everyone has to play a role. But I liked the fact of compassion. Now, this is something that is embedded in all of us Africans. Where I'm from, Southern Africa, we have what you call Ubuntu. Ubuntu, it's a peopleness. So that Ubuntu is like me reaching out to you, caring for you, being compassionate, seeing where would it move us forth. And based on that principle of Ubuntu is how you see even how most governments were formed. Like, you know, social government, how we started before we had the proper structure of government. So, and it is not only embedded in my parts of Africa, Southern, but this is something that it's embedded in all of Africa.
Yeah.
Something that we have to bring back
Yeah.
and just see how we can now push that forward
Yeah.
and have that inclusivity.
Yeah.
Key thing, I have an all-women's team.
Oh,
yes,
I
like
love
my
that.
whole all the communications
I
team
love
is
that.
like women.
I love
and
that. It almost sets the pace.
Of course.
So you notice
Yeah.
in teams where the women are the leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, if I have to go a bit broad, when we were COVID time,
Yeah.
right, during COVID relief, a lot of the countries that were actually one of the quickest responders were women led.
New Zealand.
The African countries,
Yes,
particularly,
yeah,
that were
of
one of the
course.
quickest responders,
Of course.
were women led.
Yes.
And it was just so inspiring to see. I was like, okay, why
Yes.
aren't we having more of these conversations,
Yeah.
first of all? So yeah, there's a lot of power there in female leadership.
Exactly. So nice to have you as our female
course.
leader, youth young leader, and leading the way.
Of course.
And always a pleasure having you.
Thank you
Aisha,
so much
with
for
us.
having me,
Yes.